All right, Dan, the Red Sox take down the Minnesota Twins, the hottest team in Major League Baseball, in the final game of their three-game series. So we're done with the lucky home run sausage. We're done with the Polaroid pictures. Red Sox will now be taking on the Atlanta Braves in a two-game set. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, Dan, it was so great to see the offense come alive in that series finale against the Twins because they were dormant. They were on a three-game losing streak, just 4 runs scored, and they hadn't homered in 6 straight games, but they end up putting up 9 runs in this series finale. And then on top of that, they hit 2 home runs.
Well, I thought, you and I talked about it before the game, Joe. I thought that, this was going to be a tough game for the Red Sox simply because of the momentum that the Minnesota Twins had. It's hard, in the course of 162 games, a lot of being a good team can be getting some breaks, playing teams when they're in a losing streak, playing teams when they're, have some pitching injuries and things like that. And I thought yesterday everything was lined up for the Twins to just keep going with their 12-game winning streak, make it 13 and go because of the matchups and what have you. But, the Red Sox found a way to get it done. So I give them a ton of credit from Cooper Criswell to everyone all the way through. The offense woke up a little bit. So, yeah, that was a huge win for them, I think, as a team. Get a day off on Monday, 2-game set with Atlanta, and you reset yourself. So I think just a good way for the Red Sox to get things done. And again, part of it is which teams you face, whether the Twins are good or the Twins could be bad. It just depends on the schedule when you get them. So I thought all was said and done, that was a pretty good weekend to be able to salvage 1 out of the 3 games.
And it's nice to see the long ball again because this Red Sox offense, it is more home run heavy this year. They're tied for 9th in Major League Baseball in home runs, but a lot of strikeouts too. They have the 4th worst strikeout rate in Major League Baseball. So if you're going to strike out a lot, Dan, you're going to have to hit some long balls. And thankfully, Rafaela ended that stretch. And, he was the guy that actually hit the last home run in that game against the Cubs, in which they won 17-0. So he was the one that bookended the stretch and then started it again after 6 games without a home run.
And a couple of thoughts on that, Joe. One of the things is you and your young generation of people with all your FanDuel and DraftKings and all your bets in game and everything else. What are the odds? What were the odds? I want to know that Rafaela would be the guy to get the first Red Sox home run in the month of May after they had struggled, right? And I thought part of it also that, Alex Cora said after the game that he had just simply played pepper with one of the Red Sox hitting instructors just to kind of get his mind off of things and get his swing back as he tries to stay above that Mendoza line. I think stuff like that is cool. And I also feel like pepper was one of my favorite games to play as a kid growing up. You never see it anymore, but it was just pretty simple fun, just having a good time and taking your mind off the game and reacting to balls being hit and things like that. So I was happy to see that Rafaela got that done. And he's one of those kids that you're just trying to keep afloat, right? Because he's been so valuable defensively since being inserted in that shortstop position that you're just trying to say, okay, just be good enough to stay in the big leagues and learn as you go here because he's young and you're trying to develop this hitter, but you need his defense so badly.
Yeah, you definitely do. And he played shortstop and center field in that series finale against the Twins. But it's nice to see that some old school techniques still work in today's game. And Rafaela, again, a big
Yes, it was,
run.
Joe. Yes, it was.
Exactly right. Now, he's been one of the unsung heroes for this team because of the way he plays defense and the fact that he can play a couple different spots. But another unsung hero is Cooper Criswell. And we talked all offseason about the fact that this team didn't have a lot of starting pitching depth and the guys they could have went after and then they didn't go after. How about the return on investment for this guy? 1 year, $1 million deal. And in his last 3 starts, he has allowed just 1 earned run in 14 1/3 innings.
Well, and sometimes you just take a flyer right on guys and, you hope that they can help you somewhere along the line with depth and good on him to step up in those situations. You need guys like that over the course of a season. And for him to do it for the Red Sox is just absolutely huge. And they were picking on him post game and what have you, saying that he looked like the floating guy trying to get a ground ball at some point and make a play. But yeah, you like to see someone like that get the opportunity and get it done, right? And it's just invaluable. Now you just hope to be able to utilize him if you can get some of these guys back, like Nick Pivetta and what have you, just to keep him as a long guy, a guy that can fill in the gaps. Because we've seen that when you have the guys like Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock that he can throw into the middle of a game, they can be invaluable to a team. So, whether he's in the rotation, whether he's at that kind of short, long guy that you need in there to mix, good for him and taking advantage of it and ride that as long as you can.
And a little bit of a throwback guy as well in his own right, Dan, because he doesn't throw that hard. It is high on the sinker. It taps out, or it really averages at 89 miles per hour. A lot of spin, but it's been it's been something that the Red Sox have needed, some depth in their starting rotation. A guy that was in AAA to start the year, and he's been great for the Red Sox so far. I also want to hit on Vaughn Grissom because he had a big hit in that game against the Twins in the series finale. It's so great to have him now on the roster healthy. He was dealing with that groin injury, Dan. And here's a guy that's the youngest player on the Red Sox roster, 23 years old. And he's playing a position that, as you know, has been a spot where there has been very little stability for the Red Sox since Dustin Pedroia last played over 100 games in 2017. Sox ranked 27th in Major League Baseball from 2018 to now in wins above replacement at that position. Hopefully this guy is the guy that can be there in that spot for the future.
And I think he wants to be. And I think one of the reasons why Craig Breslow brought him over is they thought it was a good opportunity to put him into that spot. You know, what we've seen on the big league level is that he's trying to find his way hitting. Yes, he could do that, but shortstop maybe wasn't his position, right? In the Braves organization, and they have one of the best in the game playing there. So there's a stop there. So you get him in that second base spot, and hopefully he can stay healthy enough to just develop his game hitting and do enough on the second base level to just keep him in the lineup every single day, right? Because Alex Cora's dream would have been Cora Story and Grissom coming out of the chute. Now they have to make up for that. Now they put Rafaela there, but those two could be huge. And I thought it was interesting, Joe, after the game, when he hit that ball, the double to right center field, he said that might have gone out or would have gone out if I didn't lose 14 pounds. You know, he was battling with the flu and everything else too, besides the injuries. So he's got a ways to go here, but that was a great sign for everybody involved as they try to get that offense going a little bit more and more and fill in the gaps with all the injuries that they've had.
And he's a guy that hit really throughout his entire minor league career. In A ball, he ended up hitting 311, high A 319, double A 363, and triple A 330 in his career. So this is a guy that's mashed in his minor league career. Doesn't always translate to the big leagues, but hopefully that's the case for the Red Sox. Final thing before we let you go here, Dan, the guy that he was traded for from the Braves, Criswell. The Red Sox are going to face off against him in this upcoming 2-game series in Atlanta. He's slated to start on Wednesday. You know, you look back at his career, obviously the first 2 seasons, magical. He was great those first 2 years, won a World Series, and ended up securing the final out, striking out Manny Machado, corkscrewing him into the ground with that slider at Dodger Stadium. The last years, 2019 to 2023, the last 5 years, obviously very injury plagued. So, you know, some good and some bad. He's talked about that as well. But I loved Alex Cora's comments about his time with the Red Sox and the people that have made fun of him for all the injuries. Yes, there were a lot of injuries. Yes, that extension was not worth it from a wins above replacement standpoint in the production that you got. But he still gave you, you know, one of the great moments in franchise history and was for 2 years one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Well, and I get guilty of it too. Sometimes it's easy to make fun of guys when they're going through it, and especially in today's sports world and the sports talk radio and what have you. But man, he was a battler, right, Joe? That's the one thing that you wanted from a guy that's leading your staff or tried to lead your staff. He cared deeply about pitching. He cared deeply about his teammates, and he cared deeply about winning. And it's just, he's one of those guys that you watched grow over the years with the White Sox and what have you. And everyone says the same thing. His torque is tremendous, but he's an injury waiting to happen because he's skinny as a rail and he just is going to break down. And he just broke down. And the long-term contract wasn't his fault. You know, it's the Red Sox. It's, you know, they probably shouldn't have done that, but they were caught up in the emotion and everything that he brought. Because he's easy to be convinced, right? He's a good salesman of the game and of himself and of what the team is trying to do. So I agree with Cora. I mean, you know, and again, the further we get away from it, Joe, and this 20-year run of championships that we were on here in this city, the more you appreciate what guys did, right? Because Sale came in and got that final out of the World Series. That in itself gave him another World Series. And again, we talk about this all the time. Ask Kansas City, ask all these teams that are dying for championships. They want that. And he gave you that by getting that final out. And it's not easy, right? So thank you, Chris Sale, for that. And I think he gets a, you know, standing ovation if he ever comes back to Fenway Park or what have you because of that, because he was a battler and he just could not stay healthy in a Red Sox uniform. And you can't tell me if you're a Braves fan watching him pitch, wow, this is awesome. but when is he going to break down? That's the unfortunate part of it that you're seeing right when you watch Chris Sale right now, because you're just afraid that he's an injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, he does look good though this year. That is the one thing. You do watch him and say, "Man, we wish we had this version of him these last couple of years." And as you just mentioned, we'll see if it ends up staying that way the rest of the season. But it'll be some theater in Atlanta for that 2-game series before the Red Sox come back home. Dan, appreciate the time as always.
Always a pleasure, Joe.